Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to whoever listening to this presentation from me, especially Mr. Harryanto Aryodiguno, which is our lecturer on this current subject, Introduction to Political Science, in this first semester. And today I will be presenting about a set of questions given for our midterm presentation, if I'm not wrong. And let's get to it. Yes, my name is Muhammad Admiraldy Iskandar. You can call me Aldi. Here is my student ID and my student email. The question set. I will start my presentation by outlining the questions given. The first question. What is the difference between politics and political science? Why do we study political science? Second, what is meant by the basic concept in political science? Please explain the characteristic and concepts in political science. The third question, how many approach to political science? Please describe with the characteristics. The fourth one is, what is the allegory of the cave? What is the moral behind the story? And the fifth, what is meant by the state, human rights, and state power? Does the power of the state need to be limited or should it be maximized? To the first question, to make it quick, what is the difference between politics and political science? Why do we study political science? So I divided to two parts to give us better understanding about both the subject. So for the definition of politics itself, politics is the process of forming and distributing power in society, which takes the form of a decision-making process on policies, especially within the state. Also, method and knowledge to gain or maintain constitutional power, such as running a government with applicable laws in the country, with a common goal or a good, such as a vision, mission, formulation, and implementation of public policy in the process. The example of this politic is partai, if in Indonesia. That's why there's so many partai, because there's so many vision, mission, and formulation and implementation of public policy that is different from the other. And the definition for political science is it focuses on the theory and practice of government and politics at the local, national, until international levels. Also could be defined as branch of the social sciences that studies the state, politics, and government. Political science deals with the analysis of political system, the theoretical, practical application to politics, and the examination of political behavior. So if we compile both of the subject, politics and political science, you are given a conclusion of what politics includes action, profession, also the process in the work. Political science learn about the method, analyzing, theory, and practice of anything related and the application of the politics itself. That is my conclusion on this question. And secondly, what is meant by the basic concept in political science? Please explain the characteristic and concept in political science. Political science basic concept and characteristic. Basically, the concept and characteristic in political science is an essential to knowledge, which help to explain a piece of reality and understanding of politics. For this case, such as government, state, sovereignty, legitimacy, authority, democracy, power, political system, and a lot of many others. This one that I gave an example itself is the most lumrah. To master our understanding of the work itself, for example, in authority Indonesia about foreign policy, only the central government has authority to run it, because if the regional government is given the authority, there's a risk of differences in the treatment of foreign policy from each region. So if the regional government given the authority, because we as a human is different from each of the other, so we have to make one vision and mission sebagai perwakilan to other lembaga. And then the central government is given the authority to run it, but the local government can still participate by providing advice, which is commonly referred to as decentralization or decentralisasi. That is the example of concept studies on political science from me. For the third question is, how many approach to political science? Please describe with the characteristic. So in my opinion, and also in many studies, We found many versions of approach to political science itself, but the most common include the normative theory, which describe how something should be, its ideal type and properties. And then we got rational choice theory. This asserts that individuals behave in ways which are determined by their own self-interest. The third one, we got discourse theory, has established that people's identities are critical to their forms of behavior and participation in development. The fourth one, we got political economy. This is an important theoretical tool since it recognizes the intimate relationship between economic and political factors in process of change and development. So this is what I know about approaches in political science. The fourth one is, what is the allegory of the cave? What is the moral behind the story? So here is I put an image of the concept of allegory of the cave made by, actually not the image made by Plato, but the concept is made by Plato. And I could describe that in the story it describe a group of people who have lived chained to the wall of a cave all of their lives, facing a blank wall. The people watch shadows projected on the wall from objects passing in front of fire behind them. The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but are not accurate representation of the real world. Long story short, they feel disturbed by the return of their friend who has been put out with a new view, and they actually think he is strange, not the other way around. The moral that can be taken from the story is that the perception we have is the perception we conclude ourselves. Therefore, as seeker of knowledge, and as a student also, we must be open-minded and exchange information on views on any matter or cultivate intellectual humility to stay humble. And for the last question is, what is meant by the state, human rights, and state power? Does the power of the state need to be limited or should it be maximized? First of all, the definition of state, human right, and state power. State is a nation or territory considered as an organized political community under one government. Human rights are moral principles or norms that describe certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected in municipal and international law. While state power is the capacity of a state to regulate behaviors and enforce others within its territory, also political power within a society and social influence, how they manage their masyarakat. And then the sub question in the fifth question is, does the power of the state need to be limited or should it be maximized? In my opinion, the power of the state needs to be maximized in several government sectors, depending on where the sector is loose so that it increases the number of offenders. For example, in our country, Indonesia, when Bu Susi still jadi menteri, which sometimes fishermen from neighboring countries still there to harvest in our marine region, maybe because of lack of education from the fishermen itself, or indeed because of regulation and supervision is still loose, sampai mereka berani nekat. While in other sectors that have been secured, the government only need to sustain the power, justice, and carry out supervision, and also listen to masyarakat. So this is the end of the presentation. I already answered the fifth other question. Uh, I want to say for once more, thank you for listening to my presentation, especially Mr. Harry, which is our lecturer on this current subject. So, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.